Deep in the heart of the forest, where the shadows grow long and the trees seem to whisper ancient secrets, there lies a dark and twisted tale that has haunted the land for centuries. It is said that in the year of 1692, a group of witches were accused of practicing dark magic and consorting with the devil himself. These witches were hunted down by the townsfolk, their screams echoing through the night as they were dragged to the gallows and condemned to burn at the stake. But one of these witches, a young woman named Elara, had made a pact with the devil in exchange for her freedom. As the flames licked at her feet and the smoke filled her lungs, Elara uttered a curse so dark and so powerful that it shook the earth beneath her. She vowed that she would return from the dead and exact her revenge on the descendants of those who had wronged her. For years, the townfolk lived in fear of the curse, always looking over their shoulders and whispering of strange happenings in the night. It is said that on the anniversary of Elara's death, the forest itself would come alive with malevolent spirits, their twisted forms dancing in the moonlight, and beckoning unsuspecting travelers into their clutches. One dark and stormy night, a group of travelers found themselves lost in the forest, their lanterns flickering in the wind as they stumbled through the undergrowth. As the thunder roared overhead and the lightning flashed, they came upon an old and crumbling cabin, its windows boarded up and its door hanging off its hinges. Despite the warnings of the townsfolk, the travelers decided to take shelter in the cabin, believing it to be their only refuge from the storm. But as they settled in for the night, a chill began to settle over the cabin, seeping into their bones and freezing their very souls. Suddenly, the door burst open with a deafening crash, and a figure cloaked in shadow stood before them. It was Elara, her eyes burning with a malevolent fire as she raised her hands and uttered a dark incantation. The travelers screamed in terror as the walls of the cabin began to twist and warp, their very reality bending to the will of the vengeful witch. They tried to flee, but the cabin seemed to stretch on for eternity, trapping them in its twisted corridors and endless halls. As they stumbled through the darkness, they could hear the whispers of the spirits that Elara had summoned, their voices echoing in the silence and driving the travelers to the brink of madness. Shadows danced on the walls, their shapes shifting and contorting into grotesque forms that seemed to reach out and grab at the travelers with clawed hands. One by one the travelers began to disappear, swallowed up by the darkness and the twisted reality of the cabin. Their screams echoed through the night, a symphony of terror that seemed to pierce the very fabric of the world. And then, as suddenly as it had begun, the darkness lifted, and the travelers found themselves standing in the clearing outside the cabin. But they were changed, their minds forever scarred by the horrors they had witnessed. From that day on, the forest was said to be haunted by the spirits of the travelers, their twisted forms wandering the shadows and luring unsuspecting victims into their clutches. And on stormy nights, when the lightning flashes and the thunder roars, the cabin is said to come alive once more, beckoning the unwary to step inside and face the wrath of Elara and her cursed cabin. And so the tale of Elara and her cabin of horrors has been passed down through the generations, a warning to all who dare to wander too deep into the forest and disturb the resting place of the vengeful witch. For Elara's curse still lingers in the air, waiting to claim those who dare to tempt fate and challenge the shadows of the night. Like and subscribe for more tales like this.